Welcome to the Cannabiz Success Show. If you're a cannabis company owner or operator who's ready to scale your business, grow your profits, and plant the seeds to take your business to new heights, this show is for you. We'll share expert insights, industry trends, and actionable strategies to help you blaze a trail of success in the cannabis industry.
Welcome to the Cannabiz Success Show. I am your host, Guillermo Rodriguez. Today, we have a really exciting guest. We're talking about marketing, about SEO, with SEO expert Sam Fisher. He's the co-founder of Green Dispensary Marketing. And what he does is he helps cannabis dispensaries, so we're more on the retail side today, get off of Weedmaps and Leafly and start making money using their own digital assets. I love the conversation because this conversation is about building a more sustainable cannabis industry. And building up digital assets is really a big part of that. Sam's going to share a lot of tips on how you can start to do that, whether you're in an emerging market and getting started or you haven't put many dollars into your marketing budget. He's got some really concrete steps in how to improve your online presence and start to build the value of your digital assets, such as your website. So I really love what he has to say about the future of cannabis and how platforms like Leafly and Weedmaps are going to be used in light of the reschedule, if that happens in the coming year. Make sure you stick around to the end. I ask him what he's most excited about, and he shares what he's really excited about in the coming year. And I'll give you a hint, has nothing to do with the reschedule, and it's something that I completely agree with and am totally passionate about. So make sure you stick around to the end. That's what's coming up right now on the Cannabiz Success Show. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Cannabiz Success Show. Today, we have a great episode. We got Sam Fisher. He's the co-founder of Green Dispensary Marketing. They help cannabis dispensaries with SEO, get off of Weedmaps and Leafly and start making money using their own digital assets. So we really want to talk about that. Nothing wrong with those platforms. They're great. Everybody uses them, but we'll be interested to get your take, Sam, on how dispensaries can better leverage their own digital assets and what that even means. But before we get into that, first of all, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you, Guillermo. It's an honor to be here. Definitely enjoy your show. As I'm saying, it's an honor just to be on here to talk with you. So appreciate you having me.
Yeah, you bet. So before we get into marketing, we always like to know, can you tell us your story of how you got into the cannabis world? I assume you haven't been in cannabis your entire career, and what was the trajectory that got you here?
Yeah, so back when I was in university, actually, I remember when I went to Colorado State University in Fort Collins. There was this big old uprising of, the people wanted to smoke marijuana and have it legalized. And so I was actually part of the Amendment 64. I was handing out cards on campus. Hey, yeah, vote yes on Amendment 64. And also simultaneously, I had found medical benefits using it. I have a condition called scoliosis. And so I had a medical marijuana card, and I was buying legally when other people weren't able to. And I just thought that seemed a little counterintuitive for somebody who's getting a lot of benefits that other people in the broader market can't as well. So I was very excited when Amendment 64 passed, and we've come a long way, as you know.
Mm-hmm. And that was, you said Colorado, so that was very early on in the medical program, or can you talk about Amendment 64 for those who aren't as familiar?
Yeah, so Amendment 64 was basically the amendment that legalized marijuana for recreational use in Colorado. And so a couple of years before, don't quote me on that, 3 years before, we had actually had medical marijuana legalized. And so Colorado's a little liberal in that regard. And so definitely took advantage of that, being a Colorado resident.
And at that point, what was your background? Were you already working in marketing prior to that?
I was in school. I was actually in college, and so I got a history degree. At the time, I was actually working as a professional DJ, and so I was doing a little bit of digital marketing, placing Google ads and Craigslist ads, and doing some basic SEO. but really didn't dip my toes fully into digital marketing until I started working online remote. And that would have been in 2016. It's about 8 years now.
Yeah. So pretty early on, you were in cannabis pretty early on, 2016, with one of the first states. And at that time, were you? Can you talk a little bit about what was your first segue into that? Your first job doing marketing were kind of in the very early years.
I don't know. I've kind of always had an entrepreneurial spirit. It's as I was saying. When I was 18, actually, I got my first job when I was 12 years old. Probably not legally, but doing janitor work for a school. And so when I was 18, I started my own DJ business. I was a mobile DJ for a while. And so really, me going into marketing is really just a continuation of what I had been doing really since I was 12 years old, just finding ways to make money online, make money without having a real job, quote unquote.
Yeah, I could resonate with that, Sam. I remember getting my first job when I turned 16 the week of, and I haven't stopped working since then. But you were much early on at 12 years old. And when
it's probably legal.
We won't talk about legal things here. But at what point did you start green dispensary marketing, and what did you see as the need there in the cannabis world to start?
Yes, let me fast forward. And so I previously, before starting green dispensary marketing, I was working as a SEO content manager for one of these big rig SEO agencies, pulling in millions of dollars a year for them. And that was where I noticed the opportunity, when I noticed how much money is pulling into just cannabis seeds. And so that's what I was really helping them sell, with these cannabis seeds, CBD products. And so most of my job then was to optimize that SEO content, plan out keywords, a lot of the stuff that I'm doing now, backlinking. And so really I had an epiphany. It's like, why am I doing this? Why am I making millions of dollars for everybody else when I have all the skills and I have all the knowledge and I could just jump out on my own, take a little risk. And so in about November of last year, actually, so we've almost made it to a year, my fiance and I decided, hey, we're going to start our own stuff. So we got some early sales, had some luck right from the get-go, and also had some early results. And so I think that's really a testament that we're going to be here for the long run.
Yeah, we're going to get into, how folks can measure at the point of sale, whether it's long-term or short-term, the effects, the performance of SEO. But first, I'd like to define some terms, because I know I work with our marketing people and they throw out terms like backlinks, and I am like, what is that? So just two really basic terms, like, can you describe what SEO means and what backlinks are, just to kind of set the stage for those who aren't as familiar with these marketing terms?
Yeah, I hate using the word SEO because, like, what I love to do is manage the web presence. But to answer your questions, SEO stands for search engine optimization. So there's 10 things, 15 different things that you can be doing to optimize your web presence and make sure that you're number one on Google. And so right now in 2024, the best way to get the number one rankings for high volume terms like dispensary near me is to look at your Google My Business profile. And so as you're getting into, one of the ways to do that is to have a really good website, really good reviews, but also to be link building and backlinking. And so essentially what those are is when you have other websites with authority and with traffic linking to your main domain, Google sees that as a really good signal that you are an authority in the industry and that you know something. And so, for example, right now when we do this podcast, you guys are going to publish this and you're going to probably put a link to my website, and that's going to qualify as a backlink. It's going to increase my authority, give me some more SEO juice on my end.
And is that something that dispensary owners can do on their own, or what are some ways where is this writing articles, or what would a retailer do that's maybe not working with you yet to be able to increase their traffic using backlinks and making sure that it's on authoritative type websites? Is it writing articles? What are some of the activities? Because I know a lot of dispensary owners have very minimal marketing budgets, especially as they're starting out, or maybe not really a plan to get going and get their digital presence up. what is like an example of some of the things that can be done to improve in this area?
So one thing to kind of note right away when we're talking about backlinking is there's a white hat strategy and a black hat strategy. And so when we say white hat, we're talking about strategies that Google sees to be good, healthy, positive signals. But black hat strategies, on the other hand, are kind of manipulative, using the algorithm against itself. And so if you are a dispensary owner, wanting to get some good backlinking going, I would recommend to do a white hat approach. It's just really the best way to do it. Cannabis is already a really tough niche. And so one of the worst things you could do is to kind of ruin your own reputation by getting these spammy backlinks. People go to Fiverr, for example, spend $10 for 1,000 backlinks, and you'll get like maybe some Russian domains pointing over to your website. And I've seen cannabis dispensaries actually get penalized manually by Google because it's against their rules to be paying for backlinks. But really, the best way to kind of summarize your question and put it in smaller terms is to be looking at something called business listings. And so there's various platforms. Weedmaps is actually one of them where we're talking about them. Leafly is another one where they'll list your cannabis dispensary and they'll put a backlink to your website. These are websites with authority. And so they're already known by Google to be in the cannabis niche. They get lots of traffic. And so Weedmaps and Leafly are a couple. There's actually a lot of them. And so cannabis.net, that's another one to look at. There's actually hundreds of them, really, because a lot of these people on the other end, Weedmaps, Leafly, what they're trying to do is they're trying to bring in these cannabis dispensaries and have them sign up to a paid plan of some sort, get paid promotions. And so, it goes both ways.
Can you describe how those platforms like Leafly and Weedmaps, how they work? Because your approach is to use more of your own digital assets. So maybe there's a combination of the two. Maybe there's a stronger. I don't think you're saying we're going to go, do away completely with those platforms, right? But maybe a combination. Can you talk about what you just mentioned? One thing, but like how does Weedmaps really work? I mean, just what do they do for a dispensary? Just to get some basics.
Think of it as an alternative to Google Maps that lets you upload your menu and helps you process your orders for you. That's what these platforms do. And so they invest ridiculous amount of money in SEO to make sure or to help ensure that they're number one for these high volume terms. And so, dispensary owners listing, one of these terms that you should be looking at is something called dispensary near me. This is something that they're currently investing tens of thousands of dollars a month to dominate any sort of local market. And so really they're trying to compete against you also, meanwhile taking in your money. And so if you were to pay for a book slot on them, you're basically helping them with their investment on the dispensary as opposed to investing your own money and getting number one rankings to beat them. And this is what it helped dispensary owners do.
Yeah, so that's a segue into how do you help dispensaries create that presence to where they can compete with a Weedmaps, or do they use both for a period of time or a combination of the two? What are some things that you do to kind of improve that?
Yeah, and so if you're a brand new dispensary, it's really easy to see why you should get on Weedmaps because it just gives you a really simple onboarding process to get your menu and have an online store. But really, I think one of the big aha moments is it's really not that hard to do that on your own, and you can do this on your own. And so a lot of cannabis dispensaries are kind of stuck doing this old strategy. They'll be relying on Weedmaps. They'll have walk-ins that'll come in one time. They'll have some word-of-mouth customers, and then on the back end, also be hoping for an investor. Because many of these dispensary owners are bootstrappers, and so they're hoping for an investor, hoping for an ROI in about 5 years. And so really, instead, what we could be doing is we could be leveraging strategic SEO, enhancing your loyalty programs, having people opt in, retarget them, have them keep coming back in, and then just keep using digital marketing strategies to improve your web presence and have you more visible in areas and also beat Weedmaps. That's really what we love to do. That answers your question well.
Yeah. Is this similar to I think what a lot of people don't realize is if you have a strong presence on a platform, you don't really own those assets, right? It's
exactly,
especially in cannabis where I know when I started, I was really gun ho, and I was like, I got my Instagram, and I started putting ads out, and then they didn't get approved, and they got shut down, and then my bank account got closed as well.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, that was fun. And then, but like a YouTube can take you off. You don't really own that platform or the content
Yep.
on there. This is similar, right? I mean, we can make a comparison that Weed Maps is similar in the sense that you don't own that content. If it goes away tomorrow, your online presence goes off if you're highly dependent on that. And so what you're saying is form a different strategy where you have your own assets that you manage and start to build the value in, such as your website, so you have a
Yeah.
more sustainable and valuable business, right?
Yeah, and it really, once you stop paying the Weed Maps ads, then the ads go away, then your visibility drops. And so I hear it all the time. People that are stuck doing this old plan is that they won't get an ROI. They'll be paying high costs, investing high amounts of money on Weed Maps. And so maybe it'll work initially, and then they'll start to come back down. And then, at the same time, they'll be dealing with saturated competition on these sorts of platforms, bidding per click. And then really, Weed Maps will tell you. I had a client tell me, there's people on this platform are just looking for the cheapest marijuana possible. And so it's really not a platform that you're going to go to find loyal customers that are trying to pay top dollar for quality products. And it's not going to help you also at the same time. Those of you looking for investors. It's not going to help you stand out with your branding. It's really just going to get these one-off customers looking for the cheapest deals possible.
Yeah, and I mean, what I hear you saying is that it's enabling the pricing pressure that's going on in the industry, right? If the majority of retailers are using Weed Maps, the majority of sales are coming through Weed Maps, and specifically in the flower category, you're training these consumers that they can just go to this site and find the lowest cost, and then all of a sudden retailers are competing on price versus value. But the strategy that you're offering is to start entering the marketplace, competing based on the value of your product and your offering, right? Not just price. Is there a way to track, for retailers that are starting to come off Weed Maps? I mean, is it relatively straightforward because you have some states that allow e-commerce and some that don't, where let's just call them leads, where your leads are coming from, where the revenue is being generated? This is a selfish real question, because as a virtual CFO, that's what I'm always trying to track, is what's ROI on this platform, on these marketing dollars, because if it's working, we want to spend more. And so is there some ways that, whether through your point of sale system or other tools, to be able to track where the leads are coming from, where your consumers are getting that first touch point?
Yeah, absolutely. And so when we build your website, when we're managing your GMB profile, when we're managing your Weed Maps profile, when we're managing your Yelp profile, we'll have all the information, your clicks, when they're coming to the website. And so at the same time, I'm not asking for the keys to the revenue reports. I think that would be a little bit irresponsible. What I would recommend as a business owner is to compare these reports of these traffic with your revenue reports to really see the impacts of the managed web presence, as opposed to saying, hey, Sam, yeah, we made $10,000 today. How the clicks doing? I really think the best way to do it is to compare our reports, which is our clicks and traffics and engagement, with your revenue reports.
So you're saying and from that, I mean, is it possible to see where the foot traffic is coming from?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And so I also recommend to all my clients, when people are coming in, one, to have them prompt them to do a review when they're checking out. Have like a little McDonald's order. When you go to McDonald's, when you purchasing your meal, it's, hey, do you want fries and a drink with that? There's something that it's really easy to implement, as well as having a review. And then at the end of the day, keeping track on where people are coming from. Ask them how they're coming into the store. Hey, how'd you find us? It's really simple, easy ways to track this. And so on my end, yes, we can track the clicks. We can track people coming to the store. We can track people opening your emails. We can track if they're going to the deals page. We can track if they're checking out the products online. But really, at the end of the day, you also have to compare those with the revenue reports that are coming in that your manager's performing.
Have you noticed any tools that work better than others? You know, when we bring on a client, first thing is we get get access to all the software. You know, some clients it's easier to get data, some clients it's less reliable. There's technology that's outdated. For a retailer to really have success and be able to track foot traffic, you know, conversion, all these various things, you track some of this through your website. But is there any tools that have worked really well? To any recommendations that you have to make sure that retailers are able to track the KPIs that they need to track to ensure that marketing dollars are being well spent, whether the point of sale systems or any kind of stellar tools that you've seen out there that have worked really well, that you know, in conjunction with your services, you're really able to work with retailers and provide really good insights?
So if you have a point of sale, which is directly on your website, we're going to know exactly who's checking out when and what exactly they're buying, to answer your question in a short manner. However, not everybody does it this way. And so some people will want to have their store on Weedmaps just because they don't want to invest in having the store on their website. And so when we're working with them, we can track the clicks going over to Weedmaps. We can look at the reviews being made on Weedmaps, but really the sales being made on Weedmaps, it's out of our control unless we have access to their Weedmaps profiles. You know, it really depends on the person. And so there's not really a one size fits all unless you give us keys to these sorts of things and you give us your full trust. Happy to help you out manage all these aspects for you and present better reports for you. But it really depends on the person, to be honest with you. It depends on the client, depends on what they're willing to give over and hand over.
And have you, shifting topic over to like what it's like to work with you? You know, I did we're part of the Cannabis Marketing Association, and I think one of the topics this year was, you know, cannabis companies are going to be spending more on marketing. Just budgets should theoretically get better with better cash flow over the next coming years, whether from new markets are doing better, emerging markets, but also potentially lowering or eliminating the burden of 280E, or a lot of cannabis companies are simply using other tax strategies to amend tax returns and bring in additional cash flow. Have you seen an increase in marketing spend, even though the reschedule is not happening, but we have a lot of new markets like New Jersey and a lot of new exciting markets? And have you seen an increase, especially as operators are getting more sophisticated and consolidated in marketing spend? Because, like I said, going back to the presentation that I participated in with the Cannabis Marketing Association, is that compared to other industries, marketing spend is extremely low in cannabis. Some of that has to do with it's non-deductible. Some of it has to do with just the newness of the industry, and operators aren't just spending as many dollars on professional services. Have you seen any change over the last year as far as how retailers are, especially in new markets, are engaging with marketing services or getting set up from the get-go?
To be honest with you, I don't know if that's a trend that I would know completely. On my end, yeah, you know, we're floating, we're surviving. We're not going to go out of business because of a lack of spending. To be honest with you, I think the biggest money is coming from the biggest players up top, whereas down low, some of these small, medium business owners, they're really they don't really trust marketing dollars, and I find that kind of sad because, you know, really any sort of big company, they'll hire a CMO. They'll have a CMO, and it's essentially what I'm doing is providing you full service CMO marketing team while working as your CMO and charging less than a full-time worker. And so really, I think a lot of it has to do with bad actors who come in and overpromise on the front end and deliver trash on the back end, as well as also people who have a good career in sales who come into this and, you know, start selling some SEO packages, and then they don't know how to do fulfillment. And so really it kind of creates the trauma for some of these people who do invest, don't get results. And then all of a sudden they just think it's, you know, marketing's a scam. And it's like, obviously marketing's not a scam. That's why any sort of big company will hire a CMO. It just probably means that you're just not working with the right person who has a track record and knows how to do this.
Yeah, when we have, I've had several calls with potential clients over the last few weeks, and I would say almost all of them have had some kind of bad actor in the past, as you mentioned, some kind of trauma from some consultant they've spent money on, some bad decisions, or just a lot of these types of consultants out there in the marketing world. So it is a real thing, and that's why it's so important for us to do like what we're doing right now, is for the industry to get to know us, to have conversations, to be thought leaders, so we can establish that credibility and separate ourselves from those who are out there not doing really good things. But what I really want to get for our listeners is how they can, other than recommendations or vetting people or making sure that, you're out here speaking, that they get to know you. What are some of the things that, if you hear this from an SEO expert, from a marketing person, like run the other way, if they promise you this, are there some things to look out for a retailer that they want to make sure, when they're trying to, sign up for more?
One of the big trends that I've noticed recently that I kind of see a moral issue with is people deceiving the Google system to run Google ads. And so there's a way that you can run Google ads right now. I don't know if you know this, but really when you run Google ads, it stays set in stone forever. And they prohibit you from running cannabis ads. And so there's an organization, as you know, called the FTC that does not like deceptive ad campaigns. And so I kind of see this as like, really? You guys are going to run Google ads and risk getting sued by the FTC? I think that's a big one. Bad actors trying to bend and twist the rules. It's really just not a good idea. And I don't personally do that on my agency. We don't do Google ads for that reason, as we are not trying to risk a lawsuit from the FTC. But there are people who do.
So what I hear you saying is just simply on the call, ask the question, do you know the rules? And give me some examples of some of the rules and some of the things we can and cannot do. I'm sure there's stories out there of marketing companies that have broken these rules and put their clients in harm's way. But what you're saying is basically, when you're talking to someone, I'm sure that's a question for you on a call, right? When you're meeting potential clients, is like, what are the rules? What are the things that I need to look out for to make sure that you are truly a cannabis marketing expert and not just, dabbling in the cannabis space? And that was a really good example that you gave there. Have you seen companies, do those specific things and get in trouble, facing fines from not following rules?
I have a client. It's not in the cannabis niche. It's in a other one of these banned niche in the psychotropic realm. They sell mushroom spores. They were running Google ads, and they recently got a dangerous content penalty, and their site is not doing well right now. And it's completely their fault. And it's really not just this industry too. I work with a marketing coach, a big coach. His name's Frankie Finn. Shout out Frankie, you're awesome. And he has one other client who works more in the medical realm. And so they have something similar with the HIPAA, HIPAA regulations. And so it's the same thing. If you break those, you'll get sued into oblivion.
Yeah. Yeah. So really important to get on this from the get-go. Shifting over to the future, do you see any changes with the reschedule in terms of how the platforms like Weedmaps and Leafly will be used in the long term, with any potential in interstate commerce, or do you see any real changes in marketing due to the reschedule?
I think really it's a question of when we will get legalized. Maybe it'll be in 10 years. Yeah, I think really just based on tax dollars and money, and Uncle Sam wanting a cut of that we are going to legalize it. That's what I would guess. And I think that's when platforms like Google, they're going to be more welcoming to things like Google ads. They'll let you place your Google ads potentially. It depends. And really, if that were to happen, that's when weed maps, Leafly, they're going to, start to either have to adapt and jump into a niche or decline.
Yeah. So do you see, is your prediction, I poll, I got my own little research thing going on here, but I poll every guest that we have on. And do you feel like the reschedule will happen when Biden need all the points he could get? Now we know he needs a lot more points. And do you think the reschedule will happen before the election?
Honestly, that's a great question. I am not a political mind. I am not a master on these sorts of things, nor do I really like to speak on it that much. But if I were to guess, maybe we'll get a desperate last move. Our president right now seems like a guy who would be willing to do that. Given his son, his history with his son. We'll see. I'll just leave it there. I have no idea. Don't presume to know.
It's all just guesses. So
Yeah.
we would guess. And so what before we get in, I wanted to get into what it's like to work with you, what somebody could expect, what the steps are. But before I ask that question, let's just say someone right now is maybe not ready to work with, not yet working with a marketing expert or CMO, but maybe they've made some mistakes. Is there anything that retailers and brands can do to clean up their SEO? In the meantime, is there any steps or actions that you can take to maybe clean up some damage that's already been done, or some changes that you could make immediately that would have an impact?
That's a question that we could be talking about in depth for about another 30 minutes. What I would recommend to anybody who has that similar question, I actually have a free resource. If you go to my website, greendispensarymarketing.com, if you just click on the cheat sheet, you can download that. It gives away, most of my ideas that I would tell you to answer that question.
Okay, and we'll definitely link that in the show notes. But let's just say someone is ready to work with CMO. They're needing help on the SEO. Maybe it's a new market and they're ready to get up and running. How is it like to work with you? I mean, do they just reach out to you and have a call? What is that initial kind of consultation like? What can someone expect?
Yeah, so just reach out to me. There's plenty of ways to reach out to me. You can Google me, go to greendispensarymarketing.com. I'm happy to talk with you and consult you for free. I'm not going to ask for money to just give you some advice. And that's part of the reason why I also have this free cheat sheet. At the same time, I also understand a lot of people are skeptical about, the SEOs, the people like myself in this industry. And so really, I'm trying to help build some trust. I don't do cold emailing. I don't do cold calling for that reason. People who do hire in that realm are also really skeptical on the back end. And really what I want are clients that trust me. And so that's what I have. The clients that trust me, they know that I'm doing what I'm doing. They don't have to be constantly asking for calls because they trust me. And so to kind of continue on that, when I'm working with you, I'll be sending you weekly reports. I'll be sending you exactly what we're doing. I'll be giving you access to our online dashboard. We have a dashboard to kind of show you all the data that I'll be sharing with you. You'll also have access to that. And so it's completely transparent.
Yeah. What's the level of engagement from an owner that's required to start this? Because like as a virtual CFO, that's one of the things I always talk about in our prospect calls. It's like, okay, we're ready to get started. This is a partnership. We're not a vendor. We're going to be working together. We're a part of your leadership team, as I'm sure you are. And so I always state, you got to have time. You got to be ready to start and meet. We're going to meet a couple of times a week. These are the time commitment that you're going to have on this. Is this a similar situation, or can a client be kind of in the background, or you're working in the background, or how does the relationship really start and evolve when you're working with you?
Yeah, and so really at the front end, you're probably going to be wanting to be really involved in what I'm doing and wanting to know everything that I'm doing. And really, what I try to do is build trust over time to the point where they're not needing 2 calls a week. And so, the first couple months, yeah, we need to be on the call a couple times a week, just so you know what I'm doing, just so you know that I'm holding my end of the deal, just so you know exactly the steps that you can take should we ever stop working together. Completely awesome with that. I'm not going to complain. Just want to build transparency and trust with the clients really on the front end. That's really my goal.
Yeah. And where can people find you? If, greendispensary.com, obviously we're going to link that in the show notes and include your resources there. I think there's always questions about marketing and rules, and so I appreciate you putting that resource out there that we can share with our listeners. But if others want to connect with you, maybe visit with you, what's the best way to find you?
I'm on LinkedIn. You can also check out my podcast. We got a podcast. Just type in Green Dispensary Marketing Podcast. We're published on all channels. But LinkedIn, my website, my personal email, samuel@greendispensarymarketing.net, as well as also my personal phone number, 303-219-2709, 303-219-2709. So lots of ways.
I like phone numbers. I've started doing that. We got away from phone numbers, but it's making a comeback. You're like various guests in the past few weeks have shared their phone number, and I'm going to start doing that as well.
You never know how people like to get a hold of you. You know, that's we have to be everywhere.
Hey, it always works. So, last question, Sam, as we wrap up the episode. Thanks for sharing all that information. What are you most excited in the coming year? There is a lot of changes. I'm excited for potential tax changes. I am excited with just the level of destigmatization that has happened over the last year. So I think it's just a forward momentum as people are starting to have more and more access to plant medicine and health, which is the reason I got into this industry in the first place. Is there something you could share with our listeners in terms of like, what are you most excited for the coming year?
I think the hemp industry is probably the most exciting, in my opinion. Really, the CBDs, the medical benefits, and really to see that spread before we see, the recreational THC stuff making it mainstream. Markets like Texas, you're based in Texas. It's just beautiful to see people starting to accept cannabis as a medicine. And so if we can make some progress there, I think that's when we'll really start to be able to make bigger progress with the recreational ticket. That's what I'm most excited about. And so the farm bill, so we'll see if that gets extended. We'll see if they continue to crack down on it, what exactly happens.
I'm extremely excited for the future of hemp, particularly here in Texas and the industrial uses of hemp. It's just such a plant in what it can do. I think we've always known about the medical benefits, but the fibers of the plant and the way they're used in building materials have such a tremendous health benefit to people as well. So just so many exciting things coming, so much in the work, but I'm sure you agree we're about 100 years behind because we've been dealing with a long period of prohibition. So it's taken some time to catch up, particularly in markets like Texas. But we got some really smart people working on it and developing the industry and a lot of support. So completely agree with that. Well, Sam, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I think our listeners are really going to benefit from you. Main takeaway is that SEO, building your digital assets, it is a long-term endeavor, but it's really well worth it, and it's a part of building a more sustainable business, which is really what we're needing in cannabis. Because for one, it starts to challenge the pricing pressure that is happening across every market, and building more value, and that's going to build more sustainable businesses, more long-term businesses, and just going to help educate consumers as well. I'm buying based on value rather than price. I think it's really going to help everybody. It's going to create a more stable market. So you're a big part of that in what you're doing, and really appreciate you being on the show today.
Yeah, likewise, I appreciate you having me, Guillermo. It's been an honor.
You bet. Well, we'll put your information in the show notes, Sam, and that's it for today. Want to thank all our listeners for joining the Cannabis Success Show, and we'll see you next time.
Enjoy this podcast? Visit our website, anderscpa.com/virtual-CFO-cannabis to get more tips and strategy for achieving business success in the cannabis industry.